Morning, morning, everyone. Hope everyone's doing well. Yet another background here as we continue to relocate. Hope everyone is doing well this morning. Welcome, YouTube. Welcome, Trade Pros. In today's update, there's not too much craziness going on, right? We're looking at a market that's seen some strength recently, and a lot of this is a little bear market rally action going on in the midst of an earnings season, right? We saw some earnings that came out already, mainly bank names. Goldman Sachs reported this morning, which is something that I do want to talk about. We talked about it yesterday a little, and there's more earnings to come out this week, and I'm going to be talking about some names that might short squeeze, that we're looking for some short squeeze, and how this market kind of shapes up. That is mainly the news that is going to be centered around this week's trading. So first and foremost, right, volatility usually comes around when we start to see earnings periods, and this is one of those earnings periods that's going to be much more watched, I would say, to see how companies are actually reacting and doing in the last few quarter, or the last quarter, I should say, in this very tight monetary policy period. Yesterday, we saw that the S&P and the Nasdaq rallied pretty aggressively, pretty much off the gate, with very little trading into the end of the day until after, right when that market actually closed. We got some kind of push to the upside. So far, we've seen that JP Morgan and Wells Fargo reported earnings, right? Bank of America reported earnings as well. They've been doing fairly okay, right? Net interest in Bank of America income also jumped about 24% to $13.8 billion, while consumer credit remains strong, and late stage delinquencies were down about 40% from pre-pandemic levels. So analysts might be wondering whether the talk of inflation, recession, and other factors could result in a slower spending growth, right? But we just don't see that at Bank of America, said CEO. So the customer's resilience and health remains pretty strong. So that's pretty interesting to note. And on the other hand, right, Goldman Sachs reports earnings this morning. Profit falls 44%, but it does beat the target, pushing a upside move in the actual name itself. So a profit falling that immensely, right? The bank does confirm its reorganization plan, as we talked about yesterday, but the shares are up over 2% pre-market trading. They were up about 2.25% yesterday, and they reported a drop in third quarter net income to $2.96 billion, or $8.25 a share, from $5.28 billion and $14.94 a share a year ago. In the year ago quarter, right? So revenue fell to 11.98 billion from 13.61 billion, and Wall Street analysts expected Goldman Sachs to earn $7.75 a share on revenue of 11.42 billion. And according to the estimates compiled by FactSet, Goldman Sachs also confirmed its plans to reorganize the bank into three operational segments that we talked about yesterday: asset and wealth management, global banking and markets, and then platform solutions. So the bank also said its key priorities moving forward include growing management fees, surprise, surprise, maximizing wallet share, and growing its financial activities, as well as scaling its platform solutions to deliver pre-tax profitability. So Goldman Sachs shares were down about 20% in 2022 compared to some of these other averages that didn't lose as much necessarily. So we'll see how that kind of pans out throughout the next quarter, and into what Bloomberg said yesterday, that there is 100% chance that we will actually see a recession within the next year. So the next 12 months, they're calling for a recession to the downside. Surprise, surprise. So that's been pretty much on the radar. We also have Netflix that's coming out with earnings, and Tesla, right? A larger tech names other than the financials that are starting off this week. And then next week, we're going to see the likes of Apple and company report their earnings results as well from the prior quarter. So as we stand right now, a lot of the individual names are pumping higher, right? And speaking of Netflix and Tesla, those are names that I do want to bring to your attention, especially if you're trading options and looking for that next move. I do understand that Netflix earnings are coming out today after the bell on the 18th, I believe it is. Yes. And that is something that we do have to consider, right? I'm not going to be holding on to these positions overnight necessarily, but I do like it. We are opening up a gap fill territory where above 250.80, 251 in that region, we can start getting that push that has this massive gap from about two earnings periods ago, where we dropped from about 350 all the way down, reopening about $100 lower. So I'm not saying that this gap has to get filled, but we're coming into an area with low volume where price and buyers can really take this thing for a swing higher, as we started the squeeze even yesterday. Tesla, another name that I'm really watching for a potential squeeze on the session today. Um, Tesla above the 226 target area, right? It's a huge distribution block. We've already started to make the move, unfortunately, but we have some room into 234-ish, 240 into that region as we start edging close to that earnings. And I do believe, let me see. Let me see. I do believe earnings are today or tomorrow after the bell. They're tomorrow after the bell. So we still have we have 2 more days of Tesla before that volatility starts to really shake up and those options get a little more expensive. So watch those two names and some other names that we have to note for potential squeezes. I do like Tesla. Speaking a little more about Tesla, Tesla's squeeze on that front is there's a lot of puts that were bought yesterday, a lot of puts that were bought that are probably going to expire worthless realistically, even after the pop that we saw late into the afternoon yesterday. And a lot of people are betting bearish on Tesla in this earnings period. I don't want to bet anything on this earnings period. I think they just want to squeeze these guys as long as the market opens up. And there is some more upside in the overall market as well in individual names. Apple coming into a key resistance as well, but it's starting to go. The SPY and the triple Qs here, SPY and ES futures. I'm going to be watching a few things on these guys. SPY close to from 378 to 380. I think that becomes an area where market faders come into this market and try to slap this thing a little lower. On the futures front, right, I have a number in mind I've shared on Twitter and other places as well. We start getting into 3807, right? That's going to be one of the first areas that I'm looking for somewhat of a fade to start to kind of sell this thing off. And 3835 to 36, that is a top of a very key distribution that I think a few faders come in and try to slap this thing back down. But until we get up there, right, buying the dips is something that I'm looking forward to. 3763 and then 3742 area. Those two levels are two areas that I'm a little more bullish around. Now I do understand the 3742 is fairly far away, but that's why we have the 63. So watch those areas very carefully and see what we can do on the DOM. Speaking of DOM, you've seen a lot of the videos that we've posted lately. Those can help you out to kind of discern what some good areas versus bad areas might be to kind of rebid or reoffer. So just keep that in mind. I hope everyone's doing well today. A shorter update here today. I want to leave you with that, right? It's an earnings period. It can get volatile, it can get messy, but so far what we've seen is the market's liking the potential for the upside and potential upside earnings that are coming out, even with profit misses and profit declines year over year, like we've seen in some of these bank names like Goldman Sachs. Markets are still fiercely trying to pump higher. So hope everyone enjoyed this. Let's get ready for the trade day. Let's open up these rooms and see what we have in the market today. A little slower naturally on the news front. That's what we get when we're into these earnings periods. All we can do is kind of just comment on the earnings that are coming up. I have yet to see any tech earnings come out, so it's a little hard to judge what the possibilities for those are. But if those get swept and get destroyed, which I don't really think so. I think we can get somewhat of a bear market rally. Then that next massive leg to the downside is probably going to open up. There's a lot of puts being bought on SPY and Tesla and some of these other names, which I honestly think are going to expire worthless and they're going to get swept under the rug. So let's just keep that in mind, as I am looking for a little more of a bullish run before we start to see any kind of turnaround. Potentially today, potentially tomorrow. We'll see how that shapes up as we're coming into, I guess, the next large meeting is going to be the November 2nd FOMC, where we do plan another rate hike of 75 basis points. Let me just check really quickly here what the odds are. I doubt they've changed realistically. As this loads, I was getting better internet when I was sitting outside. 99.4% chance of a 75 basis point hike coming out November 2nd. So far, 0.6% chance of a 50 basis point and 0% chance of a 100 basis point hike. We'll see how those things change. As we get into the end of the year, realistically, the highest probability is for 4.5 to 4.75% range. If we get a 75 basis point hike, that means that realistically, we're going to get another 75 basis point hike coming in December. So that's something that we have to watch out for. It's good that they're not pricing in any 100 basis points hike, into the next two meetings, which are going to be the last of the year. So with that, I leave you guys. Have a great day. Let's get into our trading rooms and see what we got cooking. Yesterday, had some trades here and there. Not bad for a crappy day. And let's see if we can do better today. So thanks all. Join us in our trading rooms, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Take care. Goodbye. Chat soon.